It's California Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance in Sacramento, our state's capital, and we are joined by Sebastian Ridley-Thomas, member of the California State Assembly, proudly representing the Pomerance family in the State Assembly. You are my member, as you know, and I thank you for representing us so boldly and proudly in Sacramento. I want to speak with you about some of those that are facing challenges with mental health. It's such a difficult disease because you can't touch it, you can't see it, you can't look at it under a microscope, but you're focused on it.
Very much so, because we know it significantly impacts the quality of life of Californians, and we're so glad that just over a decade ago, in 2004, the citizens of California passed Proposition 63, which has now generated roughly $13 billion that is granted to localities and nonprofits and service providers to reduce mental health challenges and to increase support services across the spectrum. We chair a select committee on mental and behavioral health and Prop 63 implementation and oversight. Started doing that last year. And in that time, believe it or not, we've had 4 hearings on topics related to mental health. We did police interactions with mental health in light of the Marlene Pinnock beating. We did autism and mental health, which are co-occurring disorders from time to time, and how we are smart with funding, because we know if you have anxiety, depression, non-communicative and developmental challenges, those often happen in tandem, and some mental health funding is appropriately applied to service providers and governmental entities that can help make sure that those developmental challenges are not exacerbated by mental health challenges. And lastly, we're going to spend the next several parts of this year talking about veterans, the VA, and mental health. There are 2 major things. One is the West LA VA and a lawsuit that was settled this year. The second is the reforms to the federal VA are going to significantly reduce wait times. So we're going to be able to get more veterans with eligible benefits, GI benefits, into care, treatment, supportive housing, workforce training, and hopefully back into a functioning role in society.
Lots of questions in connection with what you're doing. So one of your constituents is my daughter, Ivy Pomerance.
Got it.
She's in 7th grade.
That's right.
She's in a government unit right now.
Okay.
And she's learning about standing committees and select committees.
Alrighty.
And so I was explaining to her, to the extent I know, that standing committees are permanent, select committees are not.
Correct.
They tend to be temporary.
Yep.
And she started to quiz me on it. Maybe she had a sense that in the general public, at least in the political chatter, there's some discussions about select committees.
Yes.
And whether select committees are worthy. Should we be spending time focused on select committees? Shouldn't you be working on matters of grander importance? What would you say to that?
Well, I think that as young Ms. Pomerance learned, some issues require more specificity than the general nature of a standing committee. Because standing committees exist to anticipate bills that will always come up. Select committees are really investigative committees where you can drill down on a topic. So I have a bill that has to do with 5150 mental health holds.
Sure.
And it's going to go before the Standing Committee on Health, the Assembly Committee on Health, on which I sit and have for the past year and a half. I will also be having a hearing to talk about different parts of the 5150 process in California that affect different parts of California in different ways. So I'll probably do it in Sacramento and Los Angeles, simply to raise the level of dialogue about the topic. Major stakeholders in that are Disability Rights California, our labor unions, our hospitals, our clinics, our providers, that is doctors, nurses, and the like. So a select committee allows you to have more thorough dialogue. It's like almost the committee markup process in Congress.
I see.
Because in the legislature, we don't do markups. You go, you hear the bill, there's a debate on it, and honestly, you have to do a lot of work in advance to get there to the show, to the theater, the drama of a legislative hearing. An investigatory or an oversight hearing gives you the safe space to be honest, to be frank, to put things into the record, to be deliberative, and they're often longer, and you can focus on one specific thing.
So Ivy Pomerance, your constituent, 7th grade, also plays soccer.
Oh, yes.
And her practice field is at the West Los Angeles VA at the very end. I'm sure you know it. It's in your
Brentwood
district.
School?
She goes to Windward School,
Okay.
but it's right behind
Right.
the Brentwood School.
Okay.
And so I was driving her to practice, and she said to me, "Where are we? What is the VA?" And I got to be honest with you, I was embarrassed. I really didn't know how to answer what was happening in that beautiful space, because it is beautiful.
It is a throwback area that was deeded in the late 1800s
Right.
by a family that bought a Mexican rancheria, one of the La Ciénegas rancherias.
Sure.
And said that it can only be used as a term of its trust
Right.
to the federal government, deeding the land for the care and advancement of veterans.
Which I'm sure many Californians would support.
And the federal court has now supported. So the ACLU, several concerned residents and veterans advocates sued the state and the federal government, the federal VA, for allowing different uses, including the Jackie Robinson baseball field, Brentwood School, a golf course, and the like, and a few other uses of the property. And the settlement essentially says is that whatever is on the property must be used for the advancement of veterans, that there are a number of ways to get there. There are recreational opportunities which may allow for Jackie Robinson's baseball field, UCLA, Brentwood, to include veterans in those activities.
What about the soccer fields in which my daughter is practicing?
Likewise, but the courts have indicated that the use for veterans is the most significant use, the highest and most important use of the property, per the agreement that the federal government struck with the family that deeded the land.
So let's talk about veterans then, and your focus as part of your mental health committee, because you know.
So we're going to have a hearing,
right?
And we'll be talking about the settlement, the state's responsibility, and the actors associated with it. So the state has a couple of issues that it deals with. One is that we have a State Department of Veterans Affairs that operates 2 homes at the West Los Angeles VA facility. So that's a compatible use with the right. So we take those who have benefits and can afford it, and we house them, and we have some skilled facility beds, so if you're very sick, and some just regular residential. The state, unfortunately, had a capacity issue where we built a certain size residential component, did not have the appropriate size kitchen for the full number of residents. So we're literally at half capacity. Toward the end of 2015, we will be able to reach full capacity, which is 200 and something more people.
What about those?
But let me tell you the other thing with the state is that UCLA obviously is a state entity.
Right.
Yeah, but Jackie Robinson Field is in the VA property. So the state also has to make sure to work, the legislature and the regents need to work very closely together in order to make sure that we can get beneficial use for veterans out of that facility, and that UCLA steps up its veterans programs. And that, in my estimation, is a way to have mutual goals achieved.
It's a win-win.
It's a win-win, and we want to see more veterans utilizing their benefits that they're entitled to by virtue of their service in higher education.
But when I think about that space, and I think about how veterans increasingly are dealing with mental health challenges right nearby. I mean, PATH, PATH is right around the corner, which is a homeless facility. Can that facility, can the VA start to pump up its veterans services for mental health?
It should, it will. It has built 2 new buildings adjacent to the federal VA hospital.
Got it.
The federal hospital has. It has contracts with PATH, with a number of organizations. And because of the lack of psychiatric beds in emergency capacity across LA County, that's a significant shortage. We will likely be in a dialogue with the federal government and stakeholders to see if we can achieve that at the West LA VA.
Great. His name is Sebastian Ridley-Thomas, member of the California State Assembly. I'm Brad Pomerance. It's California Edition.